for the nerds. This is for the brainiacs. This what we deserve. Go ahead and play it back. You ain't gonna touch me. You not gonna do nothing. You are not above me. I bet you wish you was me. I know it. I know.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Only Friends podcast. I'm unfortunately here.
Yeah.
Which means I did not win any money while I was gone. But fortunately, I am going to be able to bring you guys a show that doesn't sound like I'm calling in from a potato. Calling in on a potato, I should say. Joined again by the same cast and crew that we had yesterday. Landon back in his normal seat.
I got pants on.
Where you belong with your pants on.
Next to the tortoise.
Next to the tortoise.
Selfless.
Out here punting it off with Jack 4 off. And Ewan joins us once again.
Hello. Glad to be back.
Can't punt 8 blinds.
You can. Oh, you most certainly
7
can.
blinds.
How did you manage to punt? Not only punt, but punt with Jack 4.
I was in the big blind.
You were
min raised. I called. I made a pair. I went all in.
It's for the
I
memes.
got 13th.
It was for the memes.
What was this in?
Hmm?
What was this in?
$30 rebuy online championship on WSOP.
Oh, an OC.
An OC.
Wow.
I keep getting top 2 tables in that damn thing. One of these times it's gonna pop off and get a win.
They're folding the Jack 4. It might just come in.
Yeah, Kai could have just folded Jack 4.
It was.
Got in. Yeah. What are you gonna do?
It was an optimistic spot.
Yeah, it was.
As a defender myself, I see where the error comes from.
Right.
It was a raise and a call. Brian had 8 bigs in the big blind. Defended the Jack 4, flopped a pair, and went with it.
I had 7 bigs.
Okay. 7 behind or 7 total?
7 behind.
Yeah, that makes it 8.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because I was like, oh, I only had 100, but I had 115 to start.
Amazing.
Sorry, we've all been there, man.
Hey,
You know,
We all fall.
sometimes you get ace king and you would be better served to just muck it pre.
you think they're not going to put the tortoise on the Jack 4? I was watching your stream. Robbie was on. I had the Jack 4. What am I going to do? Fold?
Oh, God. All right, look. This will be the only negative thing that I say this show about my experience at Live at the Bike, because honestly, I haven't had that much fun losing in a long time. But there was a point where they were really, really trying desperately to get us to play the Jack 4 bounty game. Like, oh, come on, it'll be fun. And I'm just like, this is not the action driving game you think it is. We played it all day yesterday. I was the only one who even made a chance or took an attempt to win with it. And I was like, if we play it, we have to like
Raise the stakes, right?
double the
Yeah.
bounty minimum, because we're often playing 1-2-4. Sometimes it's 1-2-4-8. Like having a bounty of $500 a man to play this stupid offsuit hand that has no business having any sort of place in poker lexicon.
Does it have to be offsuit or Jack 4
No,
suit?
it could be either.
Any Jack 4? Yeah.
But like, who gives a shit? Like these bounty games are so dumb, man. I hate the 7 deuce game too. Like I just loathe it, because you end up teaching, like if you're in a good game, it's usually good because the players you're up against are incredibly predictable and almost certainly under bluff. So like you can just range them in a way where as the pot swells and you're in a situation with like, you know, a middle of range type of hand, bluff catcher, if you will, you just know that they never fucking bluff. So you just get to confidently keep shoveling money in until they play back and then fold. But then suddenly you had the 7 deuce game, and all of a
Makes
sudden,
them better.
yeah, these maniacs just suddenly have 16 combinations of bluffs in all spots.
Yep.
It's like, I don't want to do that, man. I don't
Right.
want to do, you know, like, let's not. Let's play the stand-up game. The stand-up game is the action-driving game.
Yeah, I think stand-up game's tough for stream games, just from a production standpoint.
Why? They have PTZs. They move.
Yeah, I guess so. But it's still, I don't know.
They move.
They have like discs or whatever that represent whether or not you're still standing or not. But personally, I think it takes away from the whole, like, standing is part of the aspect of it.
So
to
it's
me.
like a stand-up game without actually having to stand up.
Yeah.
Then it's just whoever won the pot.
Yeah, it's just,
it's the last one to win a pot.
Yeah, it's just a game of chicken. Like,
Yeah.
which, don't get me wrong, still drives a ton of action. It's really genius. Like the constructs of the game are actually like really incredible at
it works.
At just incentivizing, because you're not playing to win anything, right? Like, you're fighting really hard to just not lose.
Yeah.
So it's just this massive tax that's being employed on whoever doesn't like care to try to win a pot in the first orbit.
It's basically like poker too.
Well, actually, it kind of replicates like a bubble situation, right? Where you're like, the most aggressive players in the stand-up game are trying to, play big pots, whatever the case may be, kind of replicate the chip leader on a bubble. The rest are just trying to find ways to survive without being the asshole who bubbles the event. So now it's just like this lasts longer amongst 7, 8, 9 people, whatever, where the tight people are so taking the worst of it.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just taking like a massive L here, where they're probably, if you're playing for, call it 2 big blinds per person, they have to be losing somewhere in the neighborhood of like 4 to 6 big blinds on average, I would imagine.
Yeah. Tight is not right in that game.
The last time we played it on Live at the Bike, the second hand dealt, I like fired off a 40K bluff. I got called by like top pair, no kicker.
Yeah, I mean, it makes the game play much bigger, which is also scary too.
Yeah.
When you're operating under a smaller role than would be fantasized, I guess.
You don't feel it until you leave. The second you sit down, you don't consider bankroll things or liquidity issues. Like, if I was worried about liquidity issues, I would have just never 4-bet the ace king. And
is this proverbial you or just you?
I mean, anybody who's good, I would hope. Like,
yeah.
If you're actually sitting down considering the constraints under which you're operating, you're not going to play well.
Is there a minimum buy-in to the Live to Bike game?
Good question. Yes, obviously, but I don't know what it is.
Wasn't like, it didn't have to be 100K or whatever.
No, I have no idea what it is. I bought in for 30 initially, and then
I think Maria bought him for 20.
She bought it for 30.
She bought it for 30.
Yeah, I bought it for 30 initially, and it was just clear that Eric was going to be like stupid 3-bet happy. And with 30, so it can go one of two ways. Like with 30K, that could be a good thing because you could just like 4-bet rip, a normal range, or
even wider.
Yeah, maybe even slightly wider. Or you could sit like 100K effective and play a bunch of 4-bet pots in position where you're probably gonna have a pretty big win rate. And I chose the latter. Decided to reload for the lot, if you will. Got in there for a solid 150. Went home with a solid.
Yeah.
Fucking coolers, man.
Yeah, it's a fake cooler, kind of.
Is it?
I don't know.
It was a double straddled pot, right?
Yeah, that's why it's a fake cooler.
Well, yeah, of course. If it's not double straddled.
Like if we're playing 200, 400, the hand could just never be all in pre.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It's just unfortunate.
Yeah. So, go ahead, Landon.
No, it's just such a weird, it's just an unfortunate situation where that now becomes the be all end all, where like you can just like play good poker and it's like, well, you get scammed. That's it.
I'm kind of at peace with that. Maybe I'm a little sick in the head, but and maybe I've just been doing this. Maybe I've just been doing this for long enough where everything is just noise outside of like what's actually happening. But like, yeah, I mean, every time I get the call of like, hey, can you make it out to Live at the Bike? And I, shake out the sock drawer and realize like I'm still relatively illiquid. And it's like, yeah, I can make it. But I can only bring X amount. Like they were like, oh, can you cover Phil? And it's like, no, but I'll try. So I tried to scrounge up as much cash as I possibly could. And I was able to like swap some crypto for cash, but like ultimately couldn't even round up the 300K.
You could cover Phil once he ended up losing a bunch.
Well, he'd have to stay.
Yeah. Yeah.
At that point, I think I was covering him.
You have to find oil or water, right?
Right. Or head for higher ground, I guess. Sometimes it's sharp to head for higher ground. But yeah, it's like when you're on fixed liquidity where getting access to more isn't super easy, especially when you're not playing in like your home casinos or whatever. You are a little bit limited, and there's like two ways that you can approach it, right? Like the sharpest way would be just to go buy in for 20K at a time and understand that these setups hands are going to happen. Like you're going to have ace king run into aces. You're going to have kings run into aces. You're going to have queens run into kings. Like that shit just happens, right? And if you're playing 100, 150 effective, doesn't really matter. So, went out there with like a 250,000, whatever. That's, if we're playing 100, 200, that's 12 buy-ins. So you can just go 20K at a pop and these coolers just wash themselves out. But the issue is that like we're playing for 5 hours only. We're playing on stream. There's a certain expectation to having these really good spots and these good seats. And a part of that expectation is the willingness to play deep, the willingness to have the coolers hurt a lot more one way or the other. So now it's like if you're sitting 5 buy-ins deep with only 5 buy-ins behind, or 6 buy-ins deep with only 6 buy-ins behind, whatever, those coolers will often dictate if you're a winner or a loser in the short run. Way more so than they would at merely 100 blinds. But that's the nature of live. And I don't know, man, maybe like I just came to accept this a long time ago. Like that's the beauty of it. That's why the win rates are so high. That's what I love so much about it, is that we're playing 100, 200, but the standard deviation in that game is probably somewhere in the neighborhood of like 50K. Whereas like the normal standard deviation would probably be somewhere in the neighborhood of like, if you're playing like strict 100, 200, 100 big blind cap, the normal standard deviation is maybe like, I don't know, 15 to 25K.
Yeah.
Right? Like a third of that.
Yeah. Seems scary, but like you're used to it. But is that a good thing? Who knows?
Well, it depends on your perspective.
Yeah.
If you're rolled to play like 501K, then it's a great thing, because now you have more games available to you that are playing just as big, right? But if you're rolled to play 2550 and you're shot taking, pretty scary.
Yeah. Fuck. Sad.
What is this somber Landon? What have you done to him, Ewan?
I don't know. He seems sad today. He's just, be happy, Landon.
It's not that easy.
This kid misses his permit test, and all of a sudden the world's ending.
It's always been ending.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
We're on an expiring clock.
Yeah.
Why
you gotta be happy.
What
That's why you gotta be.
Being happy stuff. What was your experience like with regards to like what I'm saying as far as transitioning into live? Like, do you sit deep to cover, or do you stick to the 100 big blind?
I mean, I normally sit kind of 250, 200 bigs deep in the normal games that I'm playing out in Vegas. It's kind of, I mean, sometimes the games play insanely deep for what they are, with people buying in for just enormous amounts of big blinds. But there's obviously benefits to just like sitting to cover people, but I think a lot of the time it kind of doesn't make too much of a difference. It only makes a big difference if kind of the people that are sitting really deep are like, all the chips are in play. I think lots of the times when people sit deep, it's kind of all the chips are only going in pre-flop with aces and only going in post-flop with top set or whatever. So it's not, nothing changes too much.
Yeah, that's kind of the rub, right? Like, I'm in a situation where Eric's 150K is super fucking live.
Yeah.
And is in play, and any opportunity. I mean, like, he 4-bet called me with jacks. No issues whatsoever. So, like, the money is definitely not under lock and key. But then in between us is Ozzy Al, who is going to be very meticulous about how his money goes in, to the point where, like, I didn't think aces was a part of shove range there for 160 bigs. And now knowing that he did have aces, I would at least consider folding and then just playing 200, 400 the next hand with 100K in front of me.
Yeah, I mean, that spot's almost like a tournament, and the kind of staying in the game is inherently worth quite a lot. So kind of to call off, you kind of need to be winning more than like the normal, like, if it wins $1, you're happy to take the spot.
Mm-hmm.
But here, if you lose, you're kind of, you got no cash in LA, so there's no rebuy. So you kind of got to be a better spot than just like a break even.
Yeah, the way I was thinking about it in the moment, and obviously like I snapped because I just know 150 goes in when you 4-bet ace king suited. Like ace king off, maybe I would have just like considered a little bit more and folded, but ace king suited is just too good. But the way I was thinking about it is like, had this hand happened 20 minutes into the stream, I probably would have just cold called the 3-bet to begin with to like protect my stack a little bit. And
yeah, I mean that's like I think if there's ever a spot where you're kind of having to make decisions that are not the highest EV, if you think the highest EV decision when you're deep there is to 4-bet and go with ace king suited, and like cold calling is, I mean, cold calling's not minus EV, but it's not as plus EV probably as cold 4-betting. That's kind of the downside of when you have to take those not as high EV spots of buying in deep and playing off 1 buy-in or 2 buy-ins. So if that was the case, then that's probably a situation where I personally wouldn't buy in as deep, and I would just play off 4 buy-ins for the night or something.
Yeah, the time restriction is what always lends me towards gambling.
Yeah.
So like even in that spot, it's like, well, I know the stream's only running for like 45 more minutes. So if the worst case happens here, I'm gonna miss out on like an hour of play where, you know, I certainly have a win rate, but is it worth passing on playing a $250,000 pot here where I'm probably flipping most of the time?
How long do these games play after the stream ends?
So, what's today? Thursday? So Tuesday's game where Helmuth came, that was only the second time in, this has to be my 40th or 50th appearance on Live at the Bike. That was only the second time we played after the stream.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought they played often. Like
almost never.
Wow.
Almost never. It's shocking. Like the people that the games are built around have exactly 5 hours that they're willing to play, and sometimes less. Like JD left early both days. There's been plenty of guys in the past that, you know, will come for the whole stream, but whether commit to the whole stream, but whether they're winning or losing will dictate whether or not they stay the entire time. So yeah, it's like, and the thing is, like, there's some of us that are willing to reg battle. So the other time that we played well after stream, it was like me, Limitless. I don't know if Oziel was there at the time or not, but Matt Sue was there. There was a bunch of us, and like Frank and Eric Hicks. It was a great game. It was just like a great game, and like we were very willing to slug it out, and whatever happened. But also the right people were stuck. Limitless was buried. Eric Hicks was like break even and just jonesing to either book a big win or a big loss, you know, that kind of thing. So it is a weird dynamic, but it's not just there. The 2 times I played on Hustler, same thing, game snap broke afterwards. And granted, they were special games, right? They were games built around Durr and Ivy and all these other guys, but like game instantly broke. Every single time I've ever played on PokerGo, which I think is like 25 times, something like that, we've only one time managed to play post-stream. And we had to like really jump through hoops to wrangle the right people to go to Aria thereafter and play. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of the unfortunate thing. That is one thing I think Hustler does really well, is they're good games. They stream them for like 10 to 12 hours. So you don't have to worry about playing post-stream. Live at the Bike is like a hard 5 or 6. And I think Tuesdays went a little long. I think they actually kept the stream running for like 6.5 hours. And somehow we played till 4 a.m. So like the game just didn't break ever. But it was close. We were down to like 3-handed multiple times, and then people would come and join, and we'd get back up to 5 or 6. But in general, obviously the people putting these games on are only concerned about keeping the lineup together for the time frame that they're running it. And honestly, it makes some sense, because if you're going to encourage people to buy in 400, 500, 600, 700 big blinds and see these massive pots change hands, you kind of want to put them on a time restriction, because ultimately what's really happening when that happens is you're not playing the advertised stakes, right? So if the game is 100, 200, but everybody's sitting a minimum of 100K effective, you're really playing like 2-4, 3-6, somewhere in that neighborhood. It's just going to be the nature of how the game plays out, right? Unless you have an awful lineup where everybody's like 2.5xing and click 3 betting, and you know the 6 bet never comes through, and we see a lot of like B10s on the flop and shit. You know, if you have like a super solver dense nerd game, then it doesn't matter if you put 10,000 big blinds in front of them. You're just never going to see a pot bigger than like a couple hundred blinds. But in general, like these really good games that we like all sign up for and can't wait to play, we're really playing significantly higher stakes than advertised, and that makes it tough both when wrangling cash, because a lot of us are traveling for it, and that's just a difficulty in and of itself. But secondarily, when you're losing, right? Because now you had to jump through all these hoops to play the game. You had to travel. You had to round up all this cash. And then the game just like instantly breaks around the people that you came to play with. It's like, man, 5 hours in the grand scheme of things, when you really zoom in on it, is like, I think I busted yesterday on like hand number 105. So it's like, fuck, man, that is not a lot of gambling. You know, you really gotta make your best with the 15 hands that are playable in that period of time.
It's wild. It seems like even though the stream is X amount of hours, it can look like there's a lot of possibility for gambling, but in reality, you play 10 to 20 hands and you hope that you get to win them.
You know what though, sitting in there during that time, it doesn't feel that way.
Right.
It feels like you're just in the, like, I played for 5 hours yesterday, 120 hands, something along those lines. I managed to be all in on a bluff. I managed to play a massive $250,000 cooler spot. Managed to play multiple 4 and 5 bet pots. I think so. Yeah,
I think this is just the nature of your play.
I mean, I had
it's just,
the 2 5 bet pots I played.
20 hands and you're going to get yourself into those spots.
Well, 2 5 bet pots I played were aces and ace king.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, that's just normal. But
right.
Also just like, yeah, whatever. I mean, it's really good TV, I guess, whenever you're able to condense that 100 hands and actually get a distribution that is meaningful. The problem is like what we were speaking to before, is when you're on the bad side of it, which somebody's always going to be on the bad side of it, it's really, really tough to dig yourself out.
Yeah.
Well, you kind of can't. You kind of can't, right? Damn it. Microphone.
I mean, it might be why Phil was pretty sharp to leave, to be quite honest. Like, he stuck 200 in a game where you're not even twisting the right knob.
No, yeah.
No, I'm going to fix it.
He's like stuck 200 in a game where it's going to take a lot of fucking luck from the deck to bail him out, right? Like, it's going to be hard for him to play a 300K pot again.
It's not like he's going to get unstuck, but if he does think he has a win rate, he's going to get some money back, theoretically, right?
Yeah, the thing is, though, like, that win rate is, if you measure it hourly, like, even if he's killing it and say making 1,000 an hour, so far he's like at that particular juncture, he's losing like 25,000 an hour. So
yeah,
it's hard to care about, like,
it's hard to play $1,000 an hour plus poker after
yeah,
all of that stuff happened, especially when you're Phil.
Yeah.
Like, for some, it's easy to just be like, oh yeah, this sucks, I'm just gonna sit here and play. And there is part of, I don't want to say the quote unquote play mad strategy or whatever, but sometimes when
the
people
fake tilt.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's worth a couple blinds for sure.
That's what I'm saying. Like, some people just think you're tilted and steamed, and then you just like have a good hand that time, and sometimes variance works out the way it does. But
yeah,
it's all unquantifiable. It's all just guesses at the end of the day too.
The way I like to think about it is, in those situations, both in how I choose to buy in and as well as like if the game is worth continuing to play or not, is looking at the formations where you're most likely to play 3 and 4 bet pots, and then asking yourself, like, is it feasible for me to be making additional money here because of the stack distribution or the player type that I'm going to have position over?
Yeah.
Like, are there just like pretty obvious ways that I could play an all-in pot?
And I get unstuck. Do I have a spot where I'm playing for bigger stakes, like 3-4 bet pots?
Yeah, just like, if I make straights, flushes, sets, those types of holdings.
5-card hands.
Yeah, if I make 5-card hands, are there people at this table that are going to lose excessive amounts of money? And when the answer is yes, you're just like, okay, like, I'm going to try to capitalize on this opportunity, and if that means putting myself a little bit out over my skis risk-wise, then so be it.
Well, that's what yesterday was, right?
Kind of. I mean, it's like I'm sacrificing the attempt to, like, if you notice, I reload like halfway through the session. So I know that there's like 3 hours of gameplay left. So it's like now I'm risking that I miss out on a couple hours of gameplay in a good game. It's like, yeah, okay, that's a risk, but it's like marginal. And it's like, okay, well, if I dust this, then I either need to scrape together a buy-in for the following day or go back. And it's like, well, the following day is 50, 100 with, you know, not exactly big action gamblers. Like Robbie's been playing wildly tight and passive. You know, you got the next kid, Rosie, and they're taking a shot, or not Rosie, Frankie. He's taking a shot, so he's going to be pretty protective of his stack. I don't know if Kmart's coming back or not. You know, it's just like the spot now, like it's a get the money now kind of spot, right? And I think Al recognized that in the hand he played against me. It's like that was a get the money now kind of spot because I don't think Aces commonly is going to want to jam.
Yeah,
probably just going to play some calls. Maybe if he has a 6-bet not all in, fine.
5-bet not all in.
Yeah, sorry, 5-bet not all in. He might want to choose that at some frequency, whatever. But he just knows that we're playing double the stakes this hand, and that I'm not. If I'm fucking around 4-betting, there's nothing he can do to like trap that. You know what I mean? Like it's just if he has ace-5 suited, which he probably doesn't because I have aces. Like he's gonna play cautiously post anyway. He's not just gonna blitz it all off because he still has 100K behind, and the next hand's gonna be 200, 400. You know, that type of thing. So it's just like, well, I'm gonna take the chance that because I have aces, he very likely has kings or queens or jacks, and we'll just like call this jam. I'm just gonna rip. It's like, you know,
Makes
it works.
sense, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, calling is obviously good too. Allowing you, if you are trying to take advantage of having button in a bigger staked game, and trapping with aces makes more sense than kings.
Yeah, I mean, to be clear, I would have a lot of 4-bets there. Like,
right. That's what I'm getting at. Right. So now aces kind of plays nice as a call. You just kind of had it that time, and he also just had it, but better. Yeah,
especially like that formation where it's Hicks opening the hijack, him 3-betting the cut. Like,
ridiculous.
I'm not folding suited broadways there. Maybe ever. You know, so it's like I'm gonna have a lot of 4-bets there.
And you're willing to blast it off some.
Yeah.
Depending.
Yeah, maybe. I did blast one off against JD.
You did.
Jack 10.
Yeah. That felt so unlucky.
He almost folded, dude. We're watching it again.
He was never folding. He just wasted 5 minutes of our time.
Yeah. He just had his the way he was holding his
he used up 2 time chips.
Yeah, he was like desperately trying to get me to talk him out of calling, and I was like, I had long enough where I'm like trying to run a script through my head of like, is there anything that could sway him? Because I had already seen his hand. He showed me his hand like 20 seconds in, and I'm thinking
that's
like,
no good.
Is there anything I can do to actually persuade this man to fold what is the biggest layup call of all time? And I'm just like, you know, I don't think so. I think if I just like stay quiet.
Do you think people are more or less likely to call if after you see his hand in that spot and he like kind of fucks around with the cards, you say, oh yeah, the hand's way good, you win?
Oh, I think he just calls.
You think people call if you say you win versus, oh, that's no good?
Yeah, I think here's what it boils down to. I think
oh, you win for sure.
I think the general perception of me is I'm not much of a deceitful person. So if I say something like that, I think he would actually take me at my word and just be like, he's a relatively honest fellow. I believe him. I'm going to call. And I think if I tried to say like, come on, man, you know that's no good, like minimum full house here, he would see through it like paper mache because again, like I'm a relatively honest person. So I don't think he would think to himself like this guy is like basically it wouldn't come off as earnest, right? It would just be like, oh, that's such an easy lie to make. I still just end of the day, like he just has a good hand.
Yeah.
And it calls.
Next time you should just have a vote and say, oh, that's good.
I should have just been like,
oh, you win, just call.
Like after a minute of him belaboring, I should have just been like, please, like stop wasting our time and put the money in the middle.
Yeah.
Like something like that, because maybe that's neutral enough where he kind of is like, huh, I don't know.
I don't think it matters what you do.
I don't either.
I think he's got a flush and he's going to call.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. This is strategy with you and McNicholas.
Did you see the hand? I think it was like 2 hands prior between Ozzy Al and the race car driver, aka the professional.
Yang?
Yeah.
Oh, with the 4 high flush?
Yeah.
Yes, this is very poetic that now you are in a spot where you're trying to get somebody to fold a flush where they tank called you with the flush.
So it's funny. The whole setup to this hand is hilarious because the day prior after Yang quit, Al and I were just like talking amongst ourselves and, you know, everybody at the table of like how it's very clear this guy's a professional, like just abundantly clear, right? And I was explaining like, yeah, I made this hero call with King 10 against him. Not even a hero call, like a hand that calls in theory versus him because like it's very clear to me that he has the right amount of bluffs because he is clearly playing for a living. So this hand happens and it's like the way it plays out where he check calls flop with 3-4 of spades, turns the backdoor flush draw on the 6. I think it goes check. I don't really remember, but it doesn't matter. Anyway, they get to the river and Al backs into his flush on the queen of spades. And it's like, it goes check on turn. Like Yang just can't ever have a flush here. He just can't. Like, what would it be? King 10 of spades that he didn't want to barrel the turn with, I guess. I guess there are some nut flush draws, like maybe ace 5 of spades would be the one that makes the most sense. You block ace 4, you block ace 3, so those hands don't exist. So like, yeah, maybe it's like exactly ace 5 of spades, ace 7 of spades that doesn't want to get blown off its equity. Although I think they're so deep on the turn, ace 7 probably even bets. So like maybe it's like one combination of flushes, right? Like he has one nut flush. And Al correctly identifies that, checks river. Yang obviously has a clear value bet with ace jack as he, you know, can get called by a 6 or a lot of worse hands. He also has the ace of spades, which is a nice blocker. And then Ozzy Al check raises. It's like, okay, this hand all played out very standardly. I think personally, like Yang just has like a pretty clear fold. A lot of backdoor spades can get there for Al. And if Yang is very range aware, he'll recognize that like he just doesn't have very many flushes in spite of him having the ace of spades. But whatever, he didn't take it to that level. He has the nut blocker. He knows like he can now turn it into a bluff if he so chooses to do so. So he chooses to do so. And then Al spends 3 minutes in the tank. And I go, what if you had King 10 of spades? He goes, I would have insta-called him. Like, what the fuck is the difference?
You know what the difference combinatorically would be that he's like ace 10, ace king of spades type stuff.
I think blocking the 3 and the 4 is probably more pertinent.
4 is nice-ish, right? Could you block the ace? Because ace 4 is going to barrel sometimes too.
I think that's going to check back more than
in the draw. Because it's not like you have that much showdown value anyways. Not sure. But, I mean, my only issue with the ace of spades jack is that size-wise, I would just jam.
Yeah, I thought that too.
I would just jam. Like, you're repping nut flush, right? So if you rep nut flush, you just go all in.
Yeah, well, I said he's a professional, not that, you know, he's fucking Phil Gelfond.
Just go all in.
Sometimes you hedge, bro. I agree.
That's the thing, right? Everyone loves fucking hedging. People love to hedge.
Well, because everybody's there on a fixed income, man.
People love hedging.
It's hard to just jam for 140,000 when you only have 80K sitting in the rack behind you.
I feel like the jam works like way more.
I don't think either of them ever should work. Al clearly has a flush. To me, in my mind anyway, Al clearly has a flush. And I think that
well, now you're saying that if someone jams, then now they just have nut blocker if no one does it anyways.
No, I'm saying specific to this exact hand and this run out and these two players. Like I
asking for a lot.
Look how bored I was.
I know.
Look how bored I was. Like he just
so
always
bored.
has the fucking ace of spades in his hand, man.
A lot of always and nevers.
Well, this particular situation.
Yeah, the issue is does he have a second spade with the ace of spades?
But if he does, you pay, man. You know, you just pay. Like, I honestly though, maybe I'm just like getting to the point where I'm too jaded because I'm seeing these spots very much like black and white. There's no other decision to be made here. Like, you have a clear bluff catcher that is massively outperforming most of your other bluff catchers, and he has a hand that could bluff. I have ace king suited, and I'm facing a jam for less than 150 big blinds, it's an obvious call, right? But I think I'm moving a little bit too far away from my live roots, where in live poker, like JD's tank with Jack 10 of spades versus me is not uncommon because nobody has a bluff in my shoes. So he's just accustomed to seeing full houses and is like thinking to himself, okay, I mean, I guess I have to call because he might have ace queen.
Yeah.
Right?
Matt Berkey, slave to the sim.
Are you saying I've been a bad influence?
The worst. The
This is all
worst.
I'm hearing. All I'm hearing is it's just that I'm a bad influence.
The worst. I was so much better when I was just clicking
When
buttons.
you're finding your own bluffs in the weird spots. Then it's a matter of if they work or if they don't, I guess.
Well, no,
Right?
I'm being facetious.
I know.
Obviously, you're not a bad influence, but
Depends who you ask.
what I'm saying is that like the more correct that you try to play, the more bankroll where you need to be, because these situations present themselves, and it's like, of course, ace king is like just a theoretical stack off, but in practicality, maybe it's not. Maybe he just has way too much of a concentration. The aces, kings, and queens, or sorry. Aces, kings, and queens, and doesn't have like nearly enough ace king with you. Doesn't have queens in full.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't have jacks ever.
Right.
Doesn't have ace queen ever. Doesn't have ace 5 suited ever. Right? Like,
yeah. Now how's ace king doing?
yeah, it's like the more we bound his range and concentrate him to aces and kings, the more my hand becomes a bit of a torch. But that's the unfortunate nature of the game. It's like
You can never know.
Yeah, you can never know. And like, how much can you actually play that back and forth, right? It's like either you commit to the fact that this is live poker and people don't 5-bet,
Yeah.
so now we overfold, or you commit to the fact that like it's only 150 big
You
blinds and you
almost
have ace
just
king suited.
justify which version you want to do what you want to do.
No, I think you just pick a side and commit.
Well, yeah.
Like, I'm just always going to stack off for 150 with ace king, no matter what the situation is. And you could go the whole other way of people don't 5-bet, so I'm just going to overfold versus 5-bets, no matter what the situation is. And I think as long as you commit to one or the other, you're doing fine.
Yeah. Seems like.
It sounds scary. Like, genuinely.
Does it?
Yeah, it does.
If we go through,
Sounds
if we go through like
scary.
the last, call it 1,000 hours of live stream footage, and everyone who has worse than kings folds all of their 5-bets, do you think they would come out plus, minus, or neutral?
Versus 5-bet.
Yeah. So anytime facing 5-bet, they just pure fold everything that is in aces or kings.
I think the tortoise and I know what we're doing.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, probably bad to put any money in. But,
Yeah.
in
In practice. Not in
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, if we go over the last 1,000 hours of random live streams.
But like when you're super deep, if you're in position, like you can call, try and flop a set, stack them when they obviously have aces.
Yeah, I think that's reasonably fair. Eric Hicks did that to me not that long ago.
And sometimes too, you don't even have to flop a set, right? Sometimes board just runs out in a way that if their range is only aces or kings, they get wrecked because they just don't have good hands.
Well, they have aces and kings. They're not going to fold.
Yeah, but on a 4-liner.
Yeah, but if we were super deep and like flop SPR is like 10 or whatever.
Yeah, but that's not going to... I mean, that's beyond super deep, right? Like, for the flop SPR to be 10 after a 5-bet.
I mean, but even like a 4 SPR, right?
Yeah.
You're still going to have situations where if you only have aces and kings, or even sometimes only have aces, and like the other person knows that, they're not going to put any money in when they're super behind versus aces.
Well, I don't know. We just saw
10-9-8 or something.
We just saw 200,000 go in on a monotone board with kings no diamond, and then a fourth diamond hit. So I don't know. When people are aware that they have no other hands in range, they tend to just like not fold those hands.
You kind of just suck it up.
Yeah, with the exception of the only time. I hate to even bring this up because it's going to cause drama, but the only time that I fully recognized that a man was capped to only having queens, kings, or aces.
Oh my god.
And I was going to bluff that range was against Nick Vertucci the first time they played the big buy-in on Live at the Bike like 4 years ago. We were playing 100, 200, 100K min.
Jack 7 of spades.
Yeah, and I raise called a 3-bet with Jack 7 of spades, and at that point, like his 3-bet range was literally just queens plus. And I chose to check raise on the 9-9-8 board and then just triple it off all in. And he folded aces face up.
See, bluffing's good.
I got really scared though because the river was a king, so it was like
He doesn't have kings.
I was literally in a 50-50 spot where it was just like, okay, well, I hope aces fold and I hope he doesn't have a snap with kings.
It's not 50-50,
50.
but he has less kings now when king hits the
That's
river.
Brian on math and
That
numbers.
is true, but aces don't have to fold.
No, they don't.
I guess queens
Well,
got a little worse.
It looks scarier because you're jamming on the king,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
You could have quads.
yeah. I would get my dick snapped so fast today if I ran that exact same line. But that's why you could play Jack 7 back then.
You 6-bet it
and
too.
not now.
Way back then.
What?
Way back then, you could 6-bet jam Jack 7.
No, you couldn't.
Vanessa did it.
Yeah, how'd that work out? She ran into fucking aces.
Guide.
She
It was,
didn't
it was
try.
legendary. Yeah, some things are just gonna like
Vanessa's my
transcend
spirit
beyond
animal.
you. She has some really good stories from like the tweet threads that you've had of playing with people and bluff catching with bluffs because she knows that he's gonna muck his cards face down. So she calls to like 5 high, knowing he's just gonna muck so she can win.
She wasn't the only one who did that. There was a story from Partouche, I think, back whenever they were still running the EPT. And I don't recall who it was, but I remember it was Uncle Dan who told me the story. And this hand came up where whatever the action was, somebody landed on the river with queen high, and they were just positive it was no good facing a bet. But they had noticed this trend of this guy just like constantly mucking his hand. I'm trying to think like, yeah, he was just like constantly mucking his hand when he was weak.
Mm-hmm.
So what ended up happening was like whoever it was, the person like check called with queen 10. So like check bet call, and the guy just like fires his hand into the muck. And back then you were forced to show to win the pot. So then they rolled over the queen 10, and the guy jumped, trying to like retrieve his hand from the muck because he had like bluffed with a pair or ace high or something along those lines, and just like lost his fucking mind. But like the way the story was relayed to me is like they were positive or had a high degree of confidence that like just calling alone was going to allow this player's hand to just hit the muck and produce a winner.
That's wild.
Poker's changed
Yeah.
a lot. Machines didn't have this programmed into them, you know?
Probably better that way.
Oh, I would I know it's impossible, but I wish there was a way that just for a day, not forever. I don't want this type of power given to anybody, but for like one day, I want like I want like a full autonomous computer to just be able to instantly have all of the live data just like just magically uploaded to it, right?
Could you imagine?
So
what
it
that
just
would look
knows
like?
literally every single speck of data that's
Oh
ever
my
been produced
gosh.
from live poker.
If only for
Just for
a
one day.
We
Just for one day.
Make the Sims go away,
Right?
so I can play.
No, I want
No, he
the
wants a sim
I
for
want the
live.
super sim.
Yeah.
I want the
You
I want the giga
machine,
sim for
you
all
want the machine
sims.
to play
God.
live poker.
No, I just want it to have all of the information that we have through our observation.
Yeah, I tell you what.
Okay,
you'd be
want to
folding, you'd be
have-
folding to 5-bets a lot
You
more
want
often
to
than
have
you
the
think you
data that we think is just true.
Yeah, I want
Call
I-
it playing 5-bets without kings and aces.
but
is
not just that. I
losing.
wanted to see everything. I wanted to
check
see
raises.
I wanted to see what we see. So I want literally every single piece of data. I wanted to know that this guy has bet with bottom pair and folds when called. Like, I wanted to know everything. And then I want to be able to model that into a sim and just see how fucking wonky the outputs are. And then I just want to forget all that information thereafter. But like for one day, I would just love to have just pure
Clairvoyance.
yeah, pure clairvoyance over like how ridiculously far away from equilibrium we actually operate.
We as a whole, or we as
Yeah,
like call
as
it
a whole.
Well, I would be curious to see how far off the high stakes arena is.
So
Because
far,
of-
bro. High
well,
stakes
like-
is softer than fucking 510.
I don't mean in like high stakes live cash. I mean like the
You
high
mean
stakes
high-stakes
MTT,
tournaments,
like the high stakes
yeah.
MTT
Oh,
scenes.
I don't care, but that's boring.
I find it interesting.
Yeah,
Well,
of course you do,
according to
because you want everyone to play like a computer.
No, I just think that like I want to
I want
see
everyone to play like Eric
everybody
Hicks.
touts how they are like the machine, right? Like where it's like, oh yeah, like if we play the machine's gonna win it all. But how true is that?
It's true. It just doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter. If the machine could be winning a tenth of a big blind, it's still going to win all the money. It's like the house having a 0.1% edge in blackjack. Always wins all the money.
So
that's how math
why,
works.
when people try to replicate the machine for what the machine is,
because they can't replicate the machine.
No, because they can't play for infinity.
Oh, that too.
Infinity.
they can play for infamy.
I tried to combine infamy and infinity. Yeah, they can't play endlessly. So if you have a 0.1% edge in blackjack, house always wins, but they're able to pump out mass volume. Right? They're taking hundreds of thousands of bets a year, printing 0.1% over and over and over and over again. It's just a tax.
The variance just disappears over that much.
Of course. Yeah, think of it this way. The edge that the computer has is a tax. Just like the edge any good player has over the field is a tax. It's a tax to the players with the lesser edge. And pumping out the volume taxes them more frequently.
Yeah, so everybody is protected by the fact that we cannot play for an infinite amount of time for an infinite amount of dollars.
Yeah, not just that. Not just that individuals are protected, because individuals are not protected from anything. Like, you'll ride the dragon and suffer your swings and go broke. Like, many people will falter. But the collective pool in live poker is very protected. You could turn Adamo loose on open field events for the rest of his life, and he's not going to suck up that much win rate, right? Because like he just can't play that much.
I mean, you're definitely going to have a lot of win rate, though. It's just
he personally can have a lot of win rate.
Yeah.
But what it takes from the ecosystem is negligible.
That's fair. Yeah.
Right. And you could say that about the entire high roller community. If they weren't insulated to this tiny little bubble of giga high stakes, but instead we're all thrust loose onto open field events, and
like if there was no high roller circuit.
Yeah. If they had an ABI of like, call it 4K, and we're just forced to play max volume, they wouldn't be. Like, they'd be great. Don't get me wrong. Like, they would still be who they are, and they would still be wealthy, but at a mere fraction of what they actually are able to obtain in the high roller community, and also with a lot more struggle, a lot more swings. Like, they would look a lot more like what we see in Elias and Altman and Osmus and these guys that have been perennial crushers for decades, but, you know, aren't at every single fucking final table, aren't in every winner's photo.
It feels like they are, but yeah.
It feels like it, but like they're winning 1 or 2 events a year.
Yeah.
You know?
And even that's a massive number. Like winning,
huge.
if you can win one big.
These guys that win 2 WPTs a year are beating like 1,000-person fields twice for 7 figures in a situation where, like, you know, the sheer variance calc of it is just like astronomical.
It's beyond me. Yeah. Crazy.
Poker's fun, man.
Is it?
It's so much fun.
A lot of fun.
It is.
When you shake your head, they don't see.
Yeah, I know.
This is the silent grow up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is Landon used to be happier today. That's what the shake was.
Yeah, he acts like he just lost $250,000.
Yeah.
What the fuck's going on here, man?
Yeah.
No, I'm all right.
He lost a percentage of that $250,000.
He did. It's not about that.
That little 5 ball that you're auto on for doesn't feel so good.
I mean, it's not about that, right? Like, all of the monetary situations are.
Yeah, money
the
comes and
birds.
goes. Who cares?
He just wants to be able to drive.
Do I?
I think so.
It's so easy to build up things in your own head that seem like such massive things to you are just like so inconsequential. Like the whole driving arc for me is like, oh my God, this is such a big change. But you two, it's like,
Been driving.
Fuck no, it's a
fucking
huge change for me.
years,
I want to be a passenger princess, man. Get me places. Let's go.
I'm scared. Driving seems scary.
That's so funny.
Well, it can be.
I couldn't wait to drive. Like,
Same.
I remember just counting the days to like start driving. I started driving when I was like 14, 15 years old, just because I wanted to get out there.
Yeah, my granddad would take me to the Slovak club with him, knock a few back, be a little too tipsy to drive. I'm like 14. He's just
Yours DD at 14.
drive me home.
Listen, this is
That was
this
your
has been
first
Berkey's life, though.
experience?
He's been the designated DD really for like our entire lives. Really.
Yeah.
Growing up, especially when we were younger and we were going to bars and Berkey'd always come to the bars, and we always had a ride home because he was the sober one.
Yeah.
We, on the other hand, were not.
No, it's true because like also when it just comes to safety in general, it's gotten a lot safer now versus like call it X amount of years ago when you guys started driving and having cars and stuff.
Well, especially where we grew up. Like, you don't have the same context we do. I mean, we grew up in a place where there were back roads that were literally dirt, and the idea of like driving drunk was not like frowned upon by like there weren't the same societal norms. There was like two camps, right? There were people like Brian and I who grew up like fairly progressive and understood the weight that comes with driving drunk, and like you see all the warning signs and people die, and you have this fear baked into you, and you just know that like it's for the betterment of society that nobody drives drunk.
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
And then there's this other camp that's like been their 4th, 5th, 6th generation people who live in Leechburg that have always been from a small town, and are willing to skirt the rules a little bit, and like the idea of driving drunk on a back road 2.5 miles away from your house,
You might not run into another car.
yeah, where there's a better chance that like you'll see a cow than a car. It was just like nothing to them. It was the idea of like, and like we view speeding probably the way that they view drunk driving. Like, I don't think twice about speeding. I mean, maybe the tortoise does, but
I mean, the tortoise goes fast sometimes.
Barely.
But like, yeah, I don't think twice about going 100 miles an hour and the dangers.
100 miles an hour. I'm out.
Yeah.
I'll do 80 in the 75.
It's one of those things where it's easier to extrapolate because of the potential fear that can exist. Like, call it the signs and the ways that things can go. But at the same time, if you're the one in control and conscious of what you're doing, you should be all right.
Yeah, you're gonna be fine, kid.
Just scare you.
Yeah.
Don't sweat it.
Scale.
You're going to be just fine.
It'll be fun. Wait till you get to look forward for the day that you have a putt-putt date with a nice young lady, and you get to offer to pick her up at her door, like the chivalrous thing to do.
Yep, a nice red Tesla.
Mm-hmm.
I do.
Yeah.
I did sit in it today. I just sat there and I was like, I have this DMV appointment and I have this car. I just sat there.
Yeah, I dropped you off the other day, and the Tesla was sitting there plugged in. I'm like charging it up. I'm getting ready.
Yeah. The reason I was charging it was because it actually.
You want to sit in it, turn it on.
If the battery ooh, look, I can sit here. If the battery goes all the way to 0, you have to get a new battery. Like 0 miles, it like fucks up the car. Like you might get lucky and not have to do it like the first time it happens. But then I went to Florida and the Bahamas, back to Florida.
Yeah, so you wouldn't make
charge
sure
it was at 8 miles, and I was like, oh shit.
Oh, yeah, I didn't realize
close
that.
to 0.
Yeah.
Danger zone.
Yeah.
Highway to
Don't do that.
No, do it. We need it.
I think we need to watch the Top Gun sequel again.
Oh my god.
Melissa fucking ruined it.
Oh, it was so good.
She made us turn it off like right as we were figuring out if Goose's son died or not.
What?
I was so mad.
Why?
Because she said, "Let's
gym.
go to the gym on the." She airdropped, "Let's go to the gym on the TV."
She was muscle mommying out.
It was really. I liked it. It was great.
It was funny. Came back and watched the end. Spoilers for anybody who hasn't seen it yet. No, actually, I won't ruin
Don't
it.
spoil it.
I won't ruin it.
I liked the first one more.
Yeah, of course.
Well, the first one, of course, it's iconic, right? But
I mean, that volleyball scene,
Oh,
if that
stop,
doesn't
dude.
gets you going.
it gets you going. Like, what genius was like, okay, here's the scene. These airmen have made their way down to the beach, and a volleyball court is there. Of course they're gonna play. Of course they're gonna be shirtless. It's gonna be hot. The ladies in the audience, they're gonna love it. It's like, yeah, all that's true. They're gonna be wearing jeans.
Jeans, no
They're gonna
shirt.
be wearing fucking jeans on the beach.
The song "Hanging with the Boys" is playing.
Like,
yes. Oh, this is getting demonetized. But that's all right. It's worth it.
why are they in jeans, man?
Oh.
They should have played "The Boys Are Back in Town" instead.
Why?
Because the boys are back in town.
Okay,
Because
that's fair.
why else? Like, what is this scene?
I mean, it's beach volleyball at its finest, man. That's there's no other way to describe it. Speaking of stream games, there's a big one coming up.
Yeah. The biggest.
The biggest in America. I'm pretty sure Triton's run
Yeah.
buy-in's comparable.
True.
But yeah,
One of the biggest.
Good chance we see the biggest pot in streamed history. So this is a pretty interesting format. They are doing a $1 million buy-in. And the way it works is that you have two 500K shells. You can take them all at once, or you can take 500 at once and then add on 500 at any point, but you can't do it incrementally. So you have two fixed 500K shells.
Yeah.
It can either be one $1 million shell or two individuals. The blinds are going to escalate. It's a 3-day long cash game with 6 heavyweights that are going to be battling it out for $1 million apiece. They also have a 100K side pot where each person puts up 100K, and the biggest winner over the 3 days scoops the 600K.
That's amazing.
So that's kind of an interesting twist.
Drive the action.
Well, it's like particularly interesting because the way it works is it's 3 days of escalating blinds. Day 1 is 500, 500 with a 500 ante. And then the second half of day 1 is 500, 500, 1K ante. Day 2 is double the stakes. So 500, 1K, 1K ante, 500, 1K, 2K ante. And then day 3 is doubling again. 1K, 2K, 1K, 2K, 2K, or 4K ante. But even by day 3, the original buy-in is going to be 500 big blinds. So, yeah, it's 18 hours of play. Yeah, they are going to, there's going to be variance, there's going to be coolers, there's going to be money exchanging hands. But, well, let me ask you guys, what do you think the person who wins the side pot, what do you think that what do you think the biggest winner is going to walk away with prior to the side pot? Like, what do you think the number is that wins?
So this is a game with 8 people?
6.
Once you're...
It's 6 max?
Yeah.
Like it's okay. So 6
If you go
million.
broke, you're done.
Oh, so you can't... You
No
only get
rebuys.
2 bullets.
No. Well, you only get 2 bullets. You have $1 million,
Oh,
period.
sorry, you have
So
if
they
you
might
lose
be
$1 million, you're
playing
done. You
300.
cannot lose more
Could
than
be
$1
playing
million.
3-handed. Yeah.
Right.
It's
You
possible.
can't just keep reloading for 500,000.
Correct.
Okay, so there's a total of 6 million.
Correct, Brian.
And
then 100K. There's 6
Yeah, I
million
mean-
that's available to be won.
right. I mean, maybe the winner is 1.5.
That sounds reasonable. I don't think it's going to be a thing where it's like it's going to be one person that has all the money at the end. I don't
Tough.
think it's going to be Thunderdome-esque.
Yeah.
But
But I don't know if
1K,
Yeah.
2K with a 4K ante. That's like
actually,
That's
no,
huge.
no, that's
Yeah.
massive.
that's huge. So like 500K buy-in.
But it's only
that
going to be 3
isn't-
hours of that,
Yeah, if you're playing 3-handed though.
right? Well,
Or even 4-handed, or
Yeah.
even 5-handed.
yeah.
Chips will fly.
So what do you think the number is?
Under 2 million.
yeah. Now that I think about
2 million
yeah,
like profit.
Well, remember, there's only 6 million in play.
Yeah, so a third of the chips.
right.
I'm not saying you're wrong.
No,
I'm just
I know.
saying
I was
bear
just-
that in mind.
Third of the
That
chips
was
don't
over
count.
under, right?
Yeah, 2 million maybe.
Over under a third.
Oh, wait, if you had a third of the chips, you'd only be up.
No,
You'd only be up.
yeah.
2 million.
If you win 2
Yeah.
million, you have
No,
half the chips in play.
Right. Wait, if you win, say that again.
If you win 2 million, you have half the chips in play.
Half the chips in play. Right. Exactly.
So many big numbers.
I think the person who wins the bounty, I think that it's going to be somewhere between 700 and 1.2 million.
Wow. Yeah, originally said
I think it's going to be
1.5.
significantly lower. I don't think anybody busts, barring like a ridiculous cooler.
But like
They're
that's
just
so
too deep.
possible over 3 days.
Yeah, it's possible. But, well, I mean, I shouldn't say. All right, let me rephrase. I think at most one person busts.
I take the over on 1.5. I think.
Okay, I would book that.
You still
Push-ups.
we still owe push-ups, but 50.
Fuck, Henry fucking owes me push-ups still. Pretty sure.
Push-ups.
I'm not gonna forget that.
Yeah, he owes us push-ups too.
Okay, 50 push-ups. I get under 1.5.
But you might be playing in the game.
So, what does that
I
matter?
don't want you to lose.
Well, I don't want to lose either. But what do you think matters? The 50 push-ups or the?
Fuck it.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go over because
serious.
you're gonna get them all. You're gonna get them all.
yeah, yeah.
Today's the day. Tomorrow's the day.
He's like, gonna have to root against you now. I don't want to do those 50 push-ups.
Yeah.
No, it's the
I
opposite.
check back. I check back to you.
No, it's the
I check
opposite.
back.
We have opposite
Oh, right.
rooting
Right.
interests.
Yeah.
No, Matt wants to
Right,
not do that. Not stack someone, and I want him to stack people.
Right. Oh, I was thinking about me personally getting stacked, but sure, that too.
Wow. See, you're so.
I don't know. I think the format's like really fascinating.
Sounds cool.
I'm basing this off of having played with a lot of people in the lineup too. Like
Yeah.
they're wild. Don't get me wrong. Like Rob is wild and Eric is wild, and if Rick plays, he's fucking wild.
Yeah, I mean, these guys are action gamblers.
Yeah, they get after it. But like, MJ's just gonna be kind of in the cut, playing pretty well. Antonius is very tight. So like, I think the likelihood of either of them busting is near zero.
Yeah.
And I think that.
Well, Eric, like when it comes to the way that Eric plays, like he just puts money in the pot.
Yeah.
So even if MJ like plays good, you can still just.
I think
get
Eric.
wrecked.
So here's my prediction. I think Eric either wins the side bot or busts,
Yeah.
and nothing in between. I don't think there's any shot that Eric is playing on day 3 with a chance to win the most amount. Like I don't think there's any chance Eric.
He's gonna go for it.
I don't think there's any chance Eric ends day 3 with any number other than 0 or the most.
He is a no gambler, no futurer.
Yeah, he's the definition of the show
Correct.
for sure.
So
I
that's
think,
one out of the one
I
and a
think that
half.
feels like a very, very safe bet.
Because what he's going to end up doing is busting somebody else probably. Like he's either going to be gone, and that's one, or he's going to bust someone else.
I guess what I'm getting at is it's really hard to bust someone
1K, 2K, 4K?
for 3 hours. So
Well,
you
it
get to play,
depends.
Be
I mean-
gambling though.
but
Yeah.
it's like 60 hands.
Yeah, people try putting on the straddles as well and like pushing the game bigger.
So that's
Yeah.
something I don't know about. I personally like.
That's a secret tech right there, you're in.
So
Secret.
so that's like something I don't know
Maybe they
about
won't
like how the
allow it.
rules are functioning, but like I imagine straddling in general will be very much frowned upon.
Yeah.
Yeah, but realistically, if half the table goes right, let's straddle. Like,
No, but
just
think about it.
happens.
Because you're on a fit. No, you have to say no because you're playing the long game, right? Like you have to treat it like a tournament,
Unless you
right?
want
Like
blood.
imagine you're in an MTT and you have 20 bigs and 3/4 of the table agrees to straddling for a round. You can't be the one who goes like, yeah, okay, I'm in.
I have seen that happen.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, don't you think by
See.
day 3, it's very feasible for 2 people to be down, or multiple people to be down 500K? Because
So-
if they are, then it's very easy for them to bust on day 3. Not easy, but it's a lot easier. for
Yeah.
them to bust
No,
on day
that
3.
actually is very fair. That the people who come into day 3 with like 500K or less,
Yeah.
you're right. They
They're
are
danger
very
zone.
susceptible to busting.
Right. Yeah.
Having just recently played a situation like this.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's what I'm
Where
thinking of.
coming into day 2, we only had 100 blinds to start the day. Once the blinds had escalated to 1K, 2K, me and Ozzy Al were never making it out of that day alive.
Right.
Yeah, and we
Yeah.
didn't.
Yeah. Exactly.
Not
So
to
it
go on a
can go
tangent.
quick.
What happened to Aussie Matt?
Great question.
Is he still around? Because I remember him and Roble used to like
Man,
play ginormous.
I don't know. He got insanely crypto rich when ETH first took off to 1,000 back in like 2016.
Okay.
Like we're talking like nine figures easy.
Yeah.
we call that
stupid
GW,
rich.
generational wealth.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's GW.
But I don't know how much he laid off when like it began to tank thereafter.
Okay.
But he kind of disappeared around that time. Like he just had made so much fucking money that we didn't really hear from him too much outside of like a few times where he played massive with Rob Young and Leon on stream.
Okay.
And then the last I had heard, he was in Bahamas
Mhm.
where all the crypto people go.
Yeah.
But I haven't heard about him playing in quite some time. So like he wasn't in the Bahamas for the event. I heard that's where he was living. But I don't know like what his situation is. If he's playing, he might just be strictly on apps. He's a huge sports bettor, so he might have shifted into that realm. I'm not sure, but we all miss Aussie Matt. He's the fucking best. He truly is a one-of-a-kind gambler. Like all things considered, his age and everything, he is very much different than how that generation overall is built.
Yeah, this definitely seems like a game that he would want to get into.
He created you to becoming one of the biggest PLO winners of all time.
That was like, I would have played him heads up that night in fucking tiddlywinks. Like he was so steamed up that there was just like, he was just going to give a lot of money to someone, and I happened to be the one who was the fortunate recipient. I also ran really well, but like he's a special kind of breed where like his tilt is wildly unique in that he doesn't try to hide it, and it's very clear that he only cares about raising the stakes, gambling higher, gambling harder, and ensuring that like he can alleviate this tilt either by pure destruction or by gambling his way out of the hole. That's his only concern. And it's like the most hardcore gambler mindset I've ever seen. I fucking love it.
Man, I can just imagine you and him just going from No Limit to PLO to him getting mad and wanting to play rock, paper, scissors, and then wanting to play like Candyland.
Bro,
and then you guys find like Trivial Pursuit.
It was truly like one of the most strange situations. So
It's a
like,
ride.
It's like, all right, if we're jumping on one foot and it's a Wednesday. And
we
like,
both came to the game late, and we immediately just get blitzed. I'm down like 150 and he's down like 250. Just like instantly, and then the game like snap breaks around us. Like, oh yeah, sure, take our 400k, and then just like, you know, everybody quit. So we played for like an hour and a half. We're the only two losers, and everybody like leaves happy but us. And I'm just like racking up, thinking like, God, this is so dumb. And he's like, I don't want to play. I don't want to quit. And I'm like, well, whatever, man. I don't know what to tell you. He goes, I want to play heads up. And I'm like, at that time, I've probably played like literally no heads up. Even to this day, I've still played like very little heads up.
that hasn't stopped
And I'm like,
someone before.
I'm like, yeah, I don't really, because like in my mind, my biggest edge was like playing a bunch of, like playing in ring games. The opportunity to win money came from the fact that there were multiple people in pots, and like they could all make errors. And you playing heads up, it was just like, well, the most I can win is what's in front of you, and it's not like you're terrible.
Yeah.
So like I don't want to
definitely
grind.
gets after it.
Yeah, like I don't really want to grind this out where I'm hoping to win like, you know, 10% of what's in front of you.
Yeah.
And he's like, but I could just see that he's seething. Like his eyes are just fucking red.
I love that word.
Seething.
Seething is such a good word.
We should have Conrad say it.
Special.
And
It's a special word.
and like the more that like I'm recognizing how angry he is, the more I'm realizing like, all right, maybe I will just play this guy. But like at the time, I really did not want to play heads up no limit, because I think it, like, you know, this is 2015, 2016. Like I knew literally nothing about heads up, and I just know that no limit hold'em one-on-one to me was very boring, because we didn't understand preflop ranges very well back then, or at least I didn't, right? So heads up no limit hold'em was just
be annoying, like limping.
It was a lot of folding.
Ooh.
Right, like but not just me, like him too.
No, I know.
If we were playing no limit hold'em, we probably would have folded like half our buttons. We would have just kept the same opening range as if like we were playing full ring on the button, you know?
Do you still want to play like that now?
No, of course not. But, so like we both immediately agreed that we didn't want to play heads up no limit, and I was like thinking in my head, I was like, well, I know he's a PLO specialist, but I've played some heads up PLO in the past, so I kind of have at least a feel for it. And he's so fucking angry,
seething,
that I think that maybe this is just the play. So I was like, I mean, I'll play PLO. And he goes, really? I'm like, yeah, I mean, I guess so. Like 500, 500.
There's no way you'd play that. Like,
Right,
that's probably
of
why I
course.
didn't want to ask you. He's like, because you knew this.
Yeah, of course.
Right.
And he's like, I was like, 500, 500. He's like, yeah, okay, fine. So I have like, you know, 200K in front of me, and he has 100.
500 is such a weird structure.
Well, I did it for a reason, because I knew he was never going to fold buttons anyway. So I wanted to give myself the option, if need be, to be able to like check button whenever I was on the button, depending on whatever. Like it's a very minimal thing, but I didn't want to have to consider a limping range versus a raising range, right? So a checking range versus a raising range is a lot more intuitive. But what he started doing was just potting dark. So we were now playing 500 2K, where the button was 100% frequency in the dark. And I had to like deal with this. But I stack him like very quickly out of the gate for like 100, and I stack him again relatively quickly, and I'm seeing how the money's going in. It's just like, bro, he flopped a gut shot and an over, and like just gone, like pot, like all in, right? And I was like, okay, I see what's happening here. So I'm now like even up small, and I get this understanding of like he has no interest whatsoever in outplaying me. He has no interest at all in trying to play winning poker right now.
No, he's gambling.
He only wants to gamble.
Yeah.
So I never 3-bet. I was like, I'm just gonna ramp variance way down, and I started like checking on the button, and I started like never 3-betting, and he got so tilted he made me start like now he's down like 400 or 500. He makes me play 1K. I'm like, okay. Like I didn't change my strategy at all.
Yeah.
Like, you know, there would be times where like I would like 3-bet an obvious hand, like good aces, and he knows I have a good aces. So he would just flat, and then I'd like block bet, and he'd just like go all in with any amount of equity, and I'd just try to have to win a flip there. And I ran good in those spots, you know, so I'd like win flips.
That's why you run good.
Yeah, but like basically I got to control how all of the money went in every single time. So I didn't need to be good at Omaha.
Yeah.
Right? I never needed the bluff. I never needed to know anything other than equity thresholds.
You used your run good in the Aussie Matt home game PLO special.
Yeah. There was a spot I won't forget it. I flopped 3 pair on a very dynamic board. I had like ace 10 8 7, something along those lines, and it came like ace 8 7 two-tone. And I remember like
Yahtzee.
so I like check and he pots obviously, and I just know that like the way it's been going, he would happily get all the money in right here.
He's got combo draw.
He could just have anything, bro. He could have like a fucking ace. It doesn't matter. He just had, but I was just like, I made a conscious decision of like, no, because he was like 200 blinds effective. I was like, no, I'm not going to play a 400 big blind pot here where I don't know what the equity splits are. Like, I don't think I'm a big favorite, basically, is what I'm getting at. And because of that reason, I'm just going to treat this as a bluff catcher. And if I improve, obviously I'll stack him. If I don't improve, then I'm just going to have to like make a tough fold somewhere along the lines. And I remember like check calling, checking the turn, and he pots again, and like ace 8 is still like pretty nutted. The turn might have been like a jack or something like that. Where now I have a gut shot too.
There are straights out there now.
Yeah, but I blocked. Or maybe a queen, because there wasn't a straight.
Okay.
I still have a relatively nutted hand. He pots again, and I call or whatever, and then the river's just like another queen or like a flush complete card. It was something where it was just like bad.
Oh.
And I check and he pots, and I was just like, that's okay. I only lost 50 big blinds in this hand or 40 big blinds in this hand, something along those lines.
Ball.
I'm just going to fold, and we're just going to get it in the next hand when I have kings. And it's going to be fine.
You were playing the Limpin' is Pimpin' check button strat edition.
I would have punched me in the face if I were him.
I thought that's what
I was giving him no fucking action. The only thing I was spotting him was that I was really bad at PLO, but he wasn't trying to play good, so it didn't matter.
No, you're just playing match the cards.
You know who I can thank for the strategy that I employed and like knowing what to do? You guys are gonna actually, no one in this room might know who he is, but Andrew Wiggins.
I know the name.
Okay, he was a former full tilt pro.
NBA player. No, I'm joking.
No, he was a former full tilt pro, and he was a part of Card Runners. I think he was one of the founding fathers of Card Runners.
Founding father.
So when they did their deal with Full Tilt, he was one of their pros, and I used to battle him at 510 PLO. And his whole strategy, he used to write about it on like Card Runners and 2+2. His whole strategy was to just play pure 3-bet out of position for like the first 100 hands and try to get both stacks deep. And he didn't care if he was taking the worst of it. So he would just like try to flip for like the first, hour of the match and just try to get everybody 500 big blinds deep because he felt like he had an edge. So I knew that, and I would just basically not flip and constantly get in money really fucking good. Like 4-bet the best of it over and over. Like, start to understand what the top 10, 15, 20% of hands look like in PLO and only 4-bet those and like take advantage of the fact that he was overly gambling. And we had some like epic battles back in the day, but like I just ran up massive stacks in a game that I wasn't very good at. So I translated that theory 8 years later into playing live nosebleed PLO when I barely knew the rules of the game. Hence why I would have played him in Tiddlywinks.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't want to play him like rock, paper, scissors?
No. I mean, no, that's too fair, but like...
Unless you saw he kept chucking rock.
Anything where he could purely gamble, I would. I played him again the next day, and he beat me back for a huge amount. Like, he was totally different. He was playing really well.
He was calm.
He was faking it. He was watching sports and faking like he was losing in the matches and getting upset and then just like absolutely blasting me. He cooled me off a bunch too. Like he flushed me a couple times, whatever. But like all things considered, he ran about as good as I ran the day before, and I ended up giving him like half of it back. But
that's okay.
The craziest decision that I think I made was it was like 5 a.m. We'd been playing for maybe 10 hours. He literally had only ever doubled up, like he had never more than doubled up once from 100 blinds to 200. So he never had more than 200 blinds in front of him the entire fucking time. And I just stacked him for his final, like he so not his final. The other thing is I was giving him all the chips. So between the two of us, I won 1.7, but at the end of the night, that was all I had in front of me. So every time I would stack him, I would just give him 100K back over and over again.
Yeah.
Right. So when it was all said and done, there was only 1.8 on the table, and I had no more in my box. And he's like, will you actually? It might even be like way less than that because we were just playing phone money at that point. So like there might have only been $500,000 on the table or 700K on the table, something like that. So finally he's like, can you or he goes, I don't suppose you want to give me another 100K or anything like that. And I was so fucking tired, even though I know that like, he's going to keep doing what he's been doing. Like he has no interest in stopping. I might be able to get him for like 4 million, whatever. I was just so tired and I felt so on the hook because I knew he was good for it, but like if he didn't pay, I'm just so fucked here.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't my money, like right. I was loaning on behalf of my backers. And it was just like, we've been at this for a long time, man. I'm going to go ahead and call it a night and go to bed. But like thinking back on it, we might have been able to play for another like 10 hours. And who knows what that number could have ran up to.
Yeah.
But like, at the same
like
time.
A weird vault story that you have.
It was the strangest night of poker I've ever played in my life. And honestly, like I'm kind of proud of myself for quitting at peak because it's another one of those things where like it could have turned.
100%.
I could have convinced myself that I like had an edge actually in PLO, and not just in the fact that he was like giga gambling. And he could have like doubled twice and had 500 bigs in front of him, and then suddenly like I'm the one who's gambling way too much now, trying to chip away at him.
Yeah, at some point there is
like he could have gotten even. For sure.
There's a lack of...
I was definitely not good enough.
There's an imbalance there, right? Where you're now risking way too much now that you have what you have.
Yeah, I mean, even the next day, like, he asked me to run it back, and I felt obliged because he gave me such a good spot. But I knew I was going in as, like, a big dog. Mm-hmm. I was, like, hoping to just... Like, I was like, I can't play long. Like, let's plan to play for, like, 5 hours. And I was just, like, hoping to run really fucking good. In a certain way, like not that I thought he had a massive edge, but like I know he's the better PLO player.
Yeah, you might have been the dog, but you have the dog in you.
Well, I was kind of hoping that I would like stack him in a bad way, like the first hand in, and he would just like rage tilt again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who is literally, we know that people that play poker sometimes might not be like the most rational actors.
Yeah, shocker. You know, that's the way it goes. You have any fun stories for us?
Nothing like that. I really was enjoying story time with Matt. That was good.
I'm excited for the day to come where you and Landon have had so much live experience that I could just like finally move over to the green chair and have you guys just talk about like, Lenny the whale that walked in off the floor that came to the 1020 table, sat $500,000 deep, and you guys got him for every fucking penny.
No, my only story like that is when Lana broke me.
Yeah, she did break you. Or like, you're just sitting at the Wynn one day, Mr. Beast comes in, and you guys get to play with him. Or Andy
I've got
Bill.
No good stories.
Yeah.
Andy Bill used to walk into the Wynn.
Yeah, you told
start
me
a 5-10 game with him and two of his friends. They would all sit 100K deep, and then just let any of the regulars come and join.
Just light it on fire. Like they just lit it.
Yeah, it was like Christmas for the poker economy. Like 6 lucky winners were gonna get some piece of 300K.
Yep.
Or get ruined. Just absolutely
That's
fucking
always a risk
ruined.
too.
Yeah.
That would be fun though. Seeing that, like I can envision that down the line. We have the gambling stories.
The next 10 years will be great for you guys. Just have to get to the casino.
You have to
just have to get there. You have to play. You have to play to have stories.
10 years is a long time, man.
Yeah. I mean, your play schedule looks now similar to what my play schedule looks now, as opposed to when I was your age.
I
Yeah.
play. Landon doesn't play though. Landon's part-time nowadays.
Yeah. Yeah. When I was your guys' age, I played as much or more than you.
Well, I mean, I don't play that much. When I'm in Vegas,
Fair.
but when I'm at home, I'm
Yeah.
part-time.
I have other priorities now. I have the gym.
It's adorable. You have a well-balanced life. I'm proud of you.
But am I proud of me? We don't have to do this.
You're just on a new generation, new wave. One final thing to talk about before we get out of here. Speaking of the generational differences, we have our documentary To Be Determined premiering today on our YouTube channel. To clear up some confusion, we did premiere this like 18 months ago, but it was behind the paywall on both both on our site and PokerGo. We have permission now to finally go ahead and release that to the public. So we're going to premiere it at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. So that's in 90 minutes. You can find that here live on our channel. The link is in the description below, or you can, just go back to youtube.com/solve4why. Wop, you want to play that clip that I got there? It's kind of a little bit of a throwback to how the game has evolved, and with it, how the dream has changed.
Do I have a clip?
Yeah, it's what you just pulled up on the Twitter page. There's a video there.
It goes right to here. Let me show you.
No, not the link. There's a video attached. Scroll down. Yep.
Just click on this.
Yep.
Now that looks like just a picture. I messaged you on WhatsApp.
That's weird. I don't have WhatsApp up. My computer crashed. Whatever you're showing is the video. I can see the picture of it.
Yeah, it's just there's no link. It's just a picture.
No, it's not a video. It's an embedded or a link. It's an embedded video. It should just autoplay.
Nada.
Okay, well, we tried. We all fall. I guess I'll pose one final question then in the meantime. What do you guys see as different as far as your pursuits in this game compared to the pursuits that we had kind of coming? Like I wrote this tweet that when we were coming up, the pursuit was money, fame, fortune, notoriety, opportunity to gamble at the highest stakes. We all wanted to be the next Ivy, Helmuth, Negreanu, right? I get the sense that it's very different for your guys' generation.
Yeah. I mean, that's what mine was at the start, but I don't think that's what I want it to be moving forward. I think that I just want to challenge myself, become as good as I can. Where that goes, but use poker as a potential leveraging point for some form of exit. I don't think poker is going to be my entire life, but I obviously love it. But it is interesting. Like, it's a good topic of conversation when it comes to meeting new people, finding new network, creating more opportunity, and being able to make the most out of my time within the industry and provide as much impact as possible. That's where I'm at now, but that might change in a week.
Yeah, I don't know. I really enjoy playing poker. That's kind of simply put, as that's where I am. I enjoy turning up and playing tournaments or playing cash. Kind of doesn't matter where. But I kind of don't have an end goal of something I'm trying to achieve. Or something I'm working for?
Is there a certain amount of money that would be enough for you to say, like, okay, I've kind of made it. I'm going to start to pursue other endeavors. Like, is money a motivating factor, I guess, is what I'm really asking.
I mean, kind of has to be, because I don't play money poker.
Sure.
Right? So
Sure.
money is part of it, but it's not like I don't always play like what I think is the highest hourly game. Like, I think tournaments are inherently like a lower hourly to play than the cash games, but I play them because I enjoy them more.
Right.
There's a balance, right, between between how fun something is and
I mean, playing online cash compared to playing live cash, like hourly is smaller playing online cash, but I do it because I enjoy it and because it.
You enjoy online cash more than live cash?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Man,
Too slow on live, or is it like?
Yeah, it's a different game. It's not. You have to be precise and accurate, and there's like a certain beauty in like having to play really well.
Yeah.
And then kind of live, it's kind of more just like it's not as simple as
Right,
this, but
it's
it's kind
more
of
of
just
a
sit and try and
challenge,
call
right?
at people,
Yeah.
which is less enjoyable.
That makes sense.
yeah. I mean, clearly there's a number, right, where you have X going to go play a 1700 circuit main at Cherokee or at the Horseshoe doesn't sound as appealing anymore, right?
I can't wait.
Like if you had,
I don't know. I'm looking forward to going and playing the 1700.
Sure, and that will be the
Let's
case
go.
for a certain amount of time. But let's say you just had access to 9 figures of wealth. There will certainly be a time where you say, you know what, I love poker and the game is still fun to me. I'll fire what I deem to be fun and enjoyable.
I think 9 figures, you have the freedom to do whatever you want. It's like when you have low 7 figures, high 6 figures.
Yeah.
Then is
where
the
you
pressure.
can kind of break out.
Once you have $1 billion, it's like you're just gonna whatever tournament you play, it's not gonna be big enough to make a dent into your overall wealth.
Right,
So,
that's
like,
why we see this $1 million buy-in tomorrow.
Right.
All these guys are 100 millionaires.
That's why you
So
do it
like
for the,
they need it. They need to feel putting 1% of their net worth up or a 0.5% of their net worth up in order to like care.
The tournaments are different because some people play tournaments for other reasons, right? They play for the thrill, the victory, the trophy at the end, if you will.
Yeah. For
Yeah.
sure.
Right. So it's just like, almost like if you have $1 billion, is there really a difference between playing a 1700 circuit event and a 5K or even a 10K?
yeah,
Might not be.
it kind of just comes down to how you feel in the moment, right? If you just have enough money where the result's not going to matter, if you still love it for the strategy, if you want to do it for the glory
right.
of whatever that looks like in the industry of how we see tournament players, then you do that. But if you're just kind of wanting to play when you feel like it, then it becomes a hobby, less so a career. And at some point, that changes for everyone in certain ways.
Well, I guess that's kind of the underpinning of the question that I'm actually asking, right? Like for us, of course, it was a pursuit in financial independence and an opportunity to never really have to work a 9 to 5. But what we also saw was the glorification of everything. We saw that there was an opportunity to be sponsored. There was an opportunity to be bigger than just another nameless face in the community. There was an opportunity to have both widespread impact, but also to leverage that into financial gains where you weren't really at risk any longer anytime that you were playing. That's kind of more the question that I'm asking you guys is not, do you want to do this forever? Because I think we all have a love and passion for the game where we'll play under some capacity, but more so when it comes to your quote unquote poker dream, was there that idolization of, the household names, the people that were on TV? Like, was there an aspiration to want to be the next generation that replaces all of that? Or is it more so recognizing that the game is maturing, the strategy is maturing, the market itself is maturing to a point where a lot of those opportunities are gone, and the nuts and bolts of it all are the passion lies in getting really good at the game, making money or getting paid in order to be really good at the game, and then moving on to your next endeavor as you reach some of that financial freedom.
I think at the start, the household name approach was something that I didn't even realize was a thing until I realized poker was an industry. When I first dropped out and played poker from Florida State and played a sit and go with friends, I didn't even know that poker was an industry. And I knew what the main was, I knew how to play, but I didn't know that people were professionals. But then after knowing all of the marketing and seeing the DNEGs, the Helmuth, the Dwan, the Ivy, you sort of get those ideas and dreams of, oh, that is something that's possible. But now, looking at it 4 years since then, you sort of see it as, at least for me, not in the same way. That stuff's not as important to me.
Right.
where what's more important to me is trying to be impactful in the community that I care about. That's what it looks like for me. And then maybe at some point using the network and platform from poker to exiting and doing something else, which could potentially lead somewhere. And who knows? Because now like I'm super into the fitness stuff and I really know that's going to lead me, but I really like doing it and making it like more of a serious hobby, if you will.
Yeah. I guess everything you're speaking to, just your generation and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but like it seems like you're very aware of the cap. Like you're abundantly, Brian and I thought that we could easily make $100 million in poker.
Really?
Yeah. 100%.
It's tough. I mean, yeah.
No.
I think
when we were coming
very
up, we
much
thought
aware
you could
of
make
that.
generational wealth.
Yeah.
GW.
Definitely,
GW.
like, thought it would be easy to make millions. Like,
Really?
even not easy to make millions, but like, oh yeah, for sure. Like, eventually, we're just gonna be like, have a million, $5 million bankroll. That'll just happen eventually.
Really?
Yeah, I mean that's
Yeah,
just
that's
kind of
crazy.
like,
That's
how-
mad.
mhm. But back then it was kind of just. I mean,
A lot of people
there
were
probably
doing
was
it.
a small window where it was possible.
Right? There were a
It's
lot
like-
of people that were doing it.
Were
Yeah,
a lot of
yeah,
people doing
right.
it, or like a handful of people doing it? And
I would
like,
assume a
doing it
lot
fairly
of people
publicly?
mean the people that were in the industry that people knew.
In the public eye.
Yes.
There were people earning and busting off 10K rolls. Like Eric Lindgren's a great example.
10K.
Or
roll?
sorry, 10
$10
million.
million roll.
Eric Lindgren's a great example. Like at his peak net worth, he had to be worth deca millions. Somewhere between 10 and 30.
Was he just a poker player?
Yeah,
Or
he's just a poker player and a face for full tilt. That's it.
I mean, he made a lot of money from full tilt.
Yeah, of course. It was
But
a byproduct of
part
him
of
being.
right. That's what
that
we
was
thought,
part of
like,
the generational wealth strategy
Right,
is
we were
becoming
like,
an
oh
investor.
well, if we,
Yeah,
get,
but how
yeah,
many people
exactly.
really span it to 10 million? Because that's
If-
got to be.
if I had to
been
guess, I would
insanely
say
hard.
I would imagine it was a few hundred.
Few hundred. That's a lot more than I would have guessed.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of them can thank Guy.
Oh, Guy Lebert, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's
10 million.
I mean, that's not shade. I think it's just
no,
the
no,
truth,
it's
right?
true. It's true.
Yeah, it's just the truth.
That was the other thing too. Like back then, people were taking absorbent risk on too. Like selling wasn't a thing. Getting backed was kind of a thing, but it wasn't super commonplace in cash games. So when you go back and watch those high stakes pokers, where like Galfon's taking a shot, or
they're playing with all their own money.
they're just fucking in there, man.
Mm-hmm.
And like Guy lost tens of millions in those games.
Yeah.
Between the high stakes poker and Rail Heaven. So like I imagine Durr had well over 10 million.
Well,
at
a
his
lot of
peak.
these guys that were taking these like 2, 3, 4, 500K shots, they got to $2, $3, $4, $500,000 very easy. They're just
Yep.
like, I can just, if I bust, I'll just
Seaver
build
talked
it back. Yeah, I'll just
Seaver
build it
talked about
back
this,
again.
where
And they did. A lot of
he was
times.
like holding lobbies and heads up as he was coming up, and he talks about how
I remember this. This is on Joey's podcast. I had timestamps for this.
yeah, how his pursuit to high stakes, he basically just had like his entire roll on the line of like hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it didn't work out, and he just went back and held the lobby at like 510 the next day,
Yeah. So what
just
he
like
did,
1/100th of the stakes or
Yeah.
1/10 of the stakes,
Yeah.
whatever.
what he did was for the higher stakes heads up that he wanted to play, he made a tier list that he thought were the best heads up players and ranked them from like 20 to 1. And he would challenge them in reverse order to become the alpha. Like he
Like,
took
start
on
with
number 20, the ninth,
just
then work his
beat
way
that
up.
person. All right, now I'll take on
Yeah, but like what he
19.
was saying is he already thought he was better than number one, but the reason he would do it that way is because if you go knock off the top dog immediately, the other 19 won't play you.
That's true.
It's
Yeah.
so
Which is really
based.
sharp.
It's
What a,
so-
what a boss.
Man, we
That
need
is.
Scotty Boom Bots on the podcast.
I would love that,
Holy
Scott.
shit.
He's a lot of
He
fun.
literally lives in,
For sure.
He lives here.
He lives here, dude. He lives here. Yeah, I
No, but
don't know.
that's wild to me. So I guess my follow-up question would be, now, decade and a half removed from when you guys had the generational wealth dreams, being at where you are now, seeing the industry change, where do you guys stand on it all?
I mean, personally, like I've still have a ton of opportunity in this space, and I struggle with it because my heart is fully committed to poker. I fucking love the game. Like, I just got my head kicked in over 2 days, and the thing is, it's just very easy for me to shrug it off because it's just a couple of hands.
It's happened before, it'll happen again.
Well, yeah, it's just like, I don't bemoan. I don't look at the body of work in this zoomed in perspective of like, oh, well, over that 5-hour span, you could have done X, Y, and Z differently and managed to not go broke in these spots. It's just like, it means nothing to me.
Yeah, you're not trying to play the post-mortem MTT bust analysis of how could I not have busted here?
Right, because outside of the Jack 4 hand, I don't really have any regrets. Like, I lost my mind in that hand. But like outside of that, I really don't have any regrets.
You had a plan though.
Whatever. It was ill contrived.
Get there on the Ace River.
Yeah. I didn't have a plan. I had planned to hit a Jack or 4, and then the ace fell, and I was like, well, that's opportunistic, isn't it? We're all in. It was not a good.
It's spicy.
It was spicy. It was not good. I'm not going to try to defend it as being good. But anyway, the whole point I'm trying to get at is like, I fucking love it, but I'm more aware now than ever that these opportunities come at a very high cost. So when I just had millions in liquidity, it wasn't that big of a deal because you're rolled for these stakes and you can always just ante back up. And the biggest thing you had to concern yourself with was being in a very poor state of mind and not being able to recognize it and potentially busting off of 10 big buy-ins or something like that because you're not cognizant of the fact that you're not in the right headspace to be gambling. But as liquidity got sunk into a bunch of assets because I'm a fucking adult now and you have to do adult things, and you want to put yourself in a position for security and you want to ensure that you're not over leveraged in any one asset, it's a weird duality where your head and your heart are just so aligned with being a poker player and wanting to pursue this, but you are logical enough and able to see the market for what it is to know that with every single passing day and every year that you get older, you are limiting your earning potential more and more and more and more by not transversing out of this space. And that's kind of scary because you feel like you're 22 all over again where you don't know what the fuck you want to do with your life. So I think that poses a bit of an issue, you know? And it's not fun to be the 41-year-old who is here speaking to people half his age saying it never really changes. You never really figure out what you want to do with your life. And that's kind of the fun and also kind of the fear.
I think that in some ways that's a good thing though, right? Not boxing yourself into being one thing in particular where you have, I am a poker player, where you sort of allow yourself to be open and susceptible to change is a good thing.
Yeah, it's good. It just depends on how you deal with anxiety. I'm not an overly anxious person. So, I could be down to a few months of living expenses after having been giga rich, and I recognize that there's another problem in front of me and I'm going to have to sacrifice a lot and work hard and do certain things. But what does become the struggle, or what could create anxiety, is within all of that, you also have to redefine who you are, because so much of what you've accomplished and, let's call a spade. We all are living in the public eye in such a small, tiny niche community. Even if you fully remove yourself from social media and shit like that, you're still very much under the microscope. So you don't really have the luxury of just saying I'm going to take a break and move on to bigger and better things for a small period of time and then revisit this later. It's yeah, you could do that, but understand that the process of you doing that is going to cost you seats. It's going to remove your access to certain arenas. It's also going to limit your finger on the pulse as far as how strategy is shifting and what you know about the space. It's basically going to take you out of the conversation of being anywhere close to great, right? And you're going to continually regress to the mean as that occurs. So it's always kind of a cost-benefit analysis of how much of myself do I really want to sink into this cap market out of sheer love and passion versus how much do I want to have a tough conversation with myself and say okay, time to do some really adult shit and go out and make some impact on the world.
To brighten things up a little bit, there is another poker boom coming. I'm excited for it. I have a renewed love for the game. I'm studying now more than I have in the last 5-10 years, really. And I just want to play. I want to play tournaments mainly, and I want to get out there, make some final tables.
I think we're in the poker boom at the moment. It's already here.
I think we really are.
Look at all the numbers in the tournaments.
All these.
They are popping off.
tweeted the other day. I said, hey, if you want to start on time, you got to get there early because there's lines everywhere, right? So I think this World Series is going to be massive. I'm looking forward to it. Probably going to play a lot more events than I have in the past, and I'm enjoying it because it's not like the only thing I do now, right? As long as poker survives, I'll have a job. Right, Berk?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, so I don't have the pressure on me. I just play and enjoy it. I understand there's going to be variance and it's going to be frustrating to bust a bunch of tournaments because that's what happens. But that's part of it. But you don't have that pressure of I have to win or I don't pay my bills this month. So that makes me enjoy the game. Just take it for what it's worth. Try to get as good as I can at it. Try to compete and have fun along the way.
That's spoken like a man who has a salary.
That's right. Gotta have that salary.
Security is worth a fucking lot.
Go out and get yourself a salary, and then you have no problem paying $49.99 a month. It's offroy.io.
And that's why he has a salary. Guapo, I think I fixed that link if you want to pull it up. Let's give you guys a little bit of a tease of what's to come for To Be Determined that we will be launching in about an hour.
This hearing is on the subject of the regulation of internet gambling. From a lot of my conservative colleagues, I hear the mantra, never regulate the internet. And I guess what they really mean is never regulate the internet unless we find something offensive, and then we'll regulate it. Because this is the most substantive interference with the freedom of the internet that has ever been enacted into law.
Over the past 10 years, the game's changed significantly.
Contemplated by the legislation is premised upon the ability of internet gambling sites to detect and block attempts to gamble online by minors, compulsive gamblers, and individuals located in jurisdictions that legally prohibit gambling. Let me say it.
You're not allowed to play in the U.S. unless you're in a handful of states, meaning a lot of the recreational players have been shut out from playing online, meaning there's less money in the pool. When that's the case, the game just gets significantly harder because the pros suck up the money faster.
After Black Friday, I immediately decided I would move somewhere. I mean, online poker was 98% of my job. At that point, I played live during the summer, and that was about it.
I was humbled, after a couple years living in Vegas. So, the first couple years were fine. We were all growing, we were all learning, we were all winning. I think we were all generally seeing that we were just as good as everyone else out there. A couple of our friends were ranked as the best in the world, But then we started to realize that the game was changing.
There was this illusion of being good at poker because you're beating these weak players. But as the better players became further and further apart from the pool, a lot of the community got left behind.
I mean, in terms of what changes, it's just natural. It's just the evolution of the game. The bad players are going to lose their money and stop playing, and the good players are going to gradually get better, and the games are going to get harder. It just took a lot longer for that to happen over those years because there was so many players.
Probably 10 years ago, the naturally gifted player would almost always outperform the much less gifted player who studied hard. That's no longer the case. You can get very, very good now by studying, and you can get in trouble if you're a very naturally gifted player who's kind of skated by on that without hard work.
I definitely knew that I could not continue to play as casually as I was. The game had just gotten too tough, and it just got harder, and it was very clear, from a decade ago that it just wasn't going to be an option anymore.
I have a lot of love for the old days when you knew everybody in the poker room. If there was somebody that you didn't know, they were not a good player. Now, if there's somebody that you don't know, it's some genius from Scandinavia or something, and who's been sitting in front of a computer for the last 8 years.
Especially after Black Friday, the ratio pros to recreational players, has continued to get worse. And the method of studying has changed a lot.
With the evolution of technology and AI as it pertains to poker, people have been more able to understand how to optimally proceed in a variety of situations. And that problem solving was previously just done through human trial and error.
16, 32. Well, none of that matters. You either got it or you don't.
There were people that were treating poker more like a math problem, trying to figure it out. And I had never thought of poker as a math problem. I had always thought that I understood it. I understood math, and I probably understood it better than most of the people I was playing with. But I never tried to, get to that point where I knew all the answers. I just wanted to know more than the rest.
I wasn't playing high enough stakes really ever where I thought I needed to study, basically. If I was more concerned at that time with like moving up, it would have been a different situation. But basically, if you fall into a pattern where you're comfortable with the stakes you're at and you're making good money, a lot of times you don't have incentive to study. And I think I was like that for several years.
Becoming more self-aware, honestly, is the biggest jump that people have to take in order to become elite in this game. Just acknowledging your own mistakes and starting to realize that they're your mistakes and they're not anyone else's. And you making excuses for them doesn't mean they're going to go away.
All right, that is a little bit of us old-timey regs take on how impactful the boom was. And, a lot of the guys in this video have transitioned out. They were either forced out or just found greener pastures, I guess. And I think that cycle is always going to continue. You're going to see guys like the Polks of the world who rise very quickly and just find that it's a good time to transition to other things. And just because the dream is different doesn't mean that the dream is dead. So I do agree with Brian. I do think we're in this second wave where tournament poker specifically is just absolutely fucking booming. And I think part of that is because the allure, the big scores are always just one event away. And that in and of itself, even though may only distill down to 30% ROI or 20% ROI, the idea of being able to just rip off $1 million at a time is it's worth trying to be one of the lucky ones, string a few of those together and never look back. Yeah, I don't know. I'm excited. I'm excited for everybody to finally see this movie. I wish we would have been able to do this whenever it first came out a year and a half ago. We were just kind of under restrictions, but I'm pumped for everybody to see it. Again, that's going to debut here in 1 hour on our channel. Be sure to come back from the premiere. We'll be live in the chat. Also, don't forget that we have a Poker Out Loud Academy April 15th to the 18th. That will be our final Poker Out Loud Academy of the year. We're going to switch back to the old format, 2 tables, where you just get to do normal gameplay without actually speaking your strategy out loud. So if you're interested in doing the Poker Out Loud format, get it while it's hot. This is your last chance in 2023. We're also doing an MTT Academy right before the WSOP. It's going to be that final weekend leading into the WSOP. So that's going to be April 24th through the 27th. Sorry, May 24th through the 27th. Apologies. It's going to be a 4-day academy. Same thing. It's going to be split between theory in the morning, gameplay in the afternoon. Matt Hunt is going to be your lead instructor for that one, while Landon and I do some commentary during the gameplay. The actual gameplay structure itself is pretty unique. So it will play out where when you bust, you just re-enter with the average stack, and we basically create this faux field of 60, 70 people. All culminating in everybody playing a final table on the final day, dealing with ICM implications. You guys will study those prior to the actual event taking place. Very, very well run. Matt's one of the best at this as far as I'm concerned. So if you guys are interested in that, head over to academy.solve4why.io. Both are available for purchase there. The MTT is in the banner at the top. The Poker Out Loud Academy, just follow the tab Academy at the top to register for that one. That's going to do it for us. We'll be back for the final show of the week tomorrow, normal time, noon Pacific. Looking forward to having you guys all back. Thanks for riding with us again. We'll see you guys then.
Peace.